we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
Okay, guys. Welcome back to Anonymous Bites Back, episode 194, called "The Last American Vagabond," and we have a special guest in tonight. Obviously, already in the title, it's Ryan Christian, "Last American Vagabond." He is kind of like a famous podcaster these days. Like discusses a lot of different subjects, So probably we'll cover we'll try to cover many things tonight. Like it will range from either like the coronavirus and the whole outbreak thing to Assange to shortly before show I heard them talking about cryptocurrencies already. So there's a lot to discuss. So I won't keep you guys waiting any longer. We'll just keep talking. And I want to say, guys, please share these episodes. We get a shadow banned all the time on different social media. They don't really like us. Even though we don't have any monetization or any of these things, you can just freely copy all the episodes and just do whatever you want with it. As long as you don't actually start making money with it. We don't really like that stuff. But just share it everywhere, and please help to share this episode too. We depend on you guys. To a guest, welcome, Ryan.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. And let me just say one thing real quick to clarify. Seeing your accent there is kind of wreaking havoc on my name. it's
sorry.
The last American Vagabond with a V. It sounds like you're saying it with an F, and that makes it sound really bad.
I was worried about that. I knew I would fuck up with that, but thanks for clarifying.
Oh, man. But it's good to be here, guys. I'm looking forward to having a good discussion about all kinds of different things.
Yeah. So the last few episodes, we've kind of been talking about the whole virus thing. I mean, everyone is like worried with it, and they're all on top of it. They're all like looking for the latest updates and trying to get like a reliable view of everything. So perhaps you want to give your view on the whole virus outbreak thing.
Yeah, it is an interesting topic, to say the least. The first thing I would say before I even get into my theories and opinions is just we all need to express more skepticism than I think we've ever really been able to express up until this point. Like we're at a point now where they are capable, like as all the evidence aside, we have to all acknowledge that the U.S. government, as well as pretty much any industrialized government these days, has the ability to fake pretty much anything without you ever being able to tell. And we just need to kind of grasp that before we get into any of this. And then also recognize that the U.S. government in particular, as well as China in their own ways, have lied about these kind of things more than once, verifiably so, and have been working on biological weapons and all kinds of different things for such a long time, including with bats, including right in and around the Wuhan area with their, all these different things. But then the story itself, that where I'm at right now, based, just kind of sum it up based off all the information that's been flying around, it's my feeling that this is some kind of a manufactured weapon of some kind, or at least an experiment. But I'm going back and forth on whether or not it seems like China's involved. I was theorizing that in the beginning, like this seems like kind of a joint exercise, if you will, right? Like, because we know that the China CDC from Wuhan was actually at the table of Event 201, which was their exercise, 6 weeks before it all exactly happened. And so it seems like that's something that might be possible, that they would work together to kind of gauge responses and see how we would act and, test out a potential vaccine. But lately, that doesn't really hold water for me because it does seem pretty clear that this is having a catastrophic effect on the Chinese economy. I mean, ways that we're not even going to be able to factor until way after this. So that's either a mistake on their part or, or it just seems like this seems more likely to being some kind of offensive attack. This is greatly benefiting a lot of other people. But then that comes into contrast with the idea of all the videos and how many numbers we're seeing and all the it's way bigger than it is and all these people with masks and all the trucks spraying. And, that's when you get confronted with are all these things we're seeing actually correct, or is it all lies or manipulation? It's just impossible to know. The bottom line, again, to come back to where I started, is we just need to express the most outrageous skepticism today and just take it one step at a time. I think we have to be aware that they are absolutely capable of lying to us about something on this scale. There's so many other ways we can go with that, but that's my just take at this point.
Now, in regards to what you're just talking about, numbers, right? Have you seen and listened to the interview of NTD where it's leaked from a worker at a funeral home where he discusses that they were burning 116 bodies on February 3rd in one home alone? Have you seen that interview? Or
I don't know if I've seen that exact interview, but I know the topic you're discussing. So I've basically seen people reporting on that. But my thing in general is, again, and I'm not saying that's not true. It's certainly, that would lend credence to the idea that it was some kind of an attack, right? But I just don't know why people in general are quick to accept things at face value. Not to say that you guys or anybody else here is doing that, but just a lot of people today are quick to take, the government says this, right? And so it's either that's what it is, which proves as a virus, or it's way worse than that. I don't see why those are kind of the only two options people go with. I think these person with the idea of the funeral home and how many they burned, that could just as easily have been made up. And again, I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just saying that's why we should be very skeptical, especially when we've got these sporadic numbers where, and again, we should definitely get into the idea of like the testing and stuff, which they just admitted the tests don't actually work, right? The CDC just said that. They may not work, right? So it's like, but anyway, the idea of the numbers, it's like we saw them sporadically go, they jumped all of a sudden and went way down. This is, of course, if you're taking these numbers, at some point you have to from these official figures. And then all of a sudden it spiked incredibly high. We all saw it in the last couple of days. It was coming down, and then it spiked up like crazy. And now again, I'm seeing today that the numbers are dramatically falling again. And I think this is a testament to the idea of how the tests are being conducted. Because we have to understand that these tests are being conducted by people that even at face value, if it is something that's dangerous and we should all be fearful. There's people that are testing these things and they're scared and they're, you've got flu symptoms and you look dangerous. Well, then you're a coronavirus, and it immediately becomes something that just tally as a potential coronavirus. When in reality, historically speaking, that happens every time. And a lot of them are just simply people with the flu or with pneumonia or with some other kind of coronavirus like the common cold or, these kind of things. And it just becomes this easy, quick, everybody who looks sick has the coronavirus. John Rappaport's done some really good work on that. That's actually where I'm discussing the idea of the tests and how they're now openly saying that the way that they're testing for this, they no longer need to prove that you have the coronavirus. They're taking chest scans, and if you have the example of like the pneumonia, and they're calling it the coronavirus illness or whatever, the pneumonia, and the numbers already show that something like 300,000 people a year already die from pneumonia. So you can see how this could very easily kind of be used and manipulated, but to what end? I don't think anybody really knows at this point.
On the other end of that, we're starting to see that China is manipulating the numbers themselves by saying that somebody died from pneumonia and not the coronavirus, or somebody died from another disease and not the coronavirus. This came out in alternative press and mainstream press. So what are your thoughts on that in regards to China kind of using all these types of tricks? Like they're not counting people that died in their homes they're counting only people who've gone to a hospital and gotten a certificate that says I have the coronavirus, basically.
Right, right. I mean, this comes back to the basic question of whether or not that's actually, we taking what they're saying at face value. I mean, first of all, is China capable and able to completely lie about something this big to cover it up? Absolutely. Would they? Absolutely, in my opinion. Right. So if that is what this situation is, and they are actually just downplaying it, covering it up, the question should be, why would they do that? How does that benefit them, especially seeing that this is demolishing their economy, and knowing that if that is the case, that it's clearly getting out of hand, right? I would think that unless they were involved in the impetus behind this whole thing, I don't know why they wouldn't be asking for help and saying, here's what's really happening, we're in danger, So it kind of there's ways that seems to kind of not make sense. Like, why would they hide it? But again, there may be a reason that I don't know. But when it comes down to them, the argument that they are hiding the numbers, or that more people are sick than we're seeing, that they're burning bodies, again, I feel like this all comes from sources that we can't personally confirm. And again, would they be able to lie about it and trick us all on a lower scale, that it's that they're pretending it's happening when it's really not? They would be able to do that too. So really, we need to get to a point to where we can actually begin verifying whether or not these things are happening. Because and we again think about the idea that we have 300,000 people that die a year just from pneumonia. There are millions of people that die every year just from the flu. So it would be very easy to make this into something it's not. I don't know if that's what's happening, but I just don't. It's dangerous to begin to taking these things at face value, in my opinion.
And
did you see the? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, no, I about this. I wanted to say I think personally that it is not just China either. Like, if they would be lying about these things, I mean, the entire international community is looking at this, and there are likely a lot of specialists on the ground from different countries, like even if it's just Americans. So if the Chinese would be lying about numbers or whatever, other countries are involved already. Then we're talking about different governments lying too. Including things like the World Health Organization and all these international organizations, because they are in fact all watching this. It is like we might not be on the ground, but they are on the ground certainly. And then there's another thing, and that is that the tests being unreliable, and that goes. And you actually told me that, AK, that the incubation period is much longer than expected. So we might not see direct symptoms for weeks. I think it's 24 days now.
Yeah. And again, I have no way to confirm that that's actually the case. I think extending that incubation period just extends the fear around this. Because if you got a 2% mortality rate, which again, we're still taking all of this information from government sources, so it's hard to just, know whether any of this is real, but with a 2% mortality rate and then 14-day incubation period, then you get the kind of recipe for concern, right? Well, now it's low mortality, but it's hard to see and it can go out, and you understand why that would be something that they would use. But I think it's interesting, like you said, that the World Health Organization is acutely involved with specifically that Wuhan lab we're talking about. Right. So it's like, you're right. They absolutely would know. And so that draws more concern about, that just doesn't line up. It doesn't make sense. And I had an interesting thought about this today in regard to the social media content, right? Because so the argument is that China is just like authoritarian level locking down these areas, right? No concern for their rights, no concern for their humanity, just doing everything, whatever. That's the argument. And you also have some pretty hardliners in this country saying, look, that's what we need to do, like saying that's the good thing. That's why they're good at stopping this. But the argument would be, if they're locking down that much, and in an authoritarian country that's proudly in that style, why are we still seeing things come out on social media? We know that they could easily shut down the internet. I mean, they could shut down anything they wanted. They could shut down social media platforms. So why is it still happening? It's just, maybe there's an answer to that, but I just think there's a lot of things that don't really gel for me on this whole story. And that's kind of where I feel like we usually try to start. I think it's rare that we ever really know. Like, for instance, I always reference JFK. I think we all generally could know that there was more to that story and that he was probably assassinated and the whole thing. But we never really get the full story. All we end up really knowing is that we were lied to. And that's kind of where I try to get back to, is I feel like we're getting pretty clear examples here that we are being lied to about what's actually happening. And yeah, and yes, that could mean that it's worse than it is, but that's just not what I'm feeling from this personally.
Yeah. In regards to that, like you said, the World Health Organization was involved with that lab. So if it was a bioweapon, right, and it was released from that lab, they would know. They would know 100% what is going on. And I just wanted to correct you. They're now saying it's actually 24 days for incubation rate, not 14. So if this is a real situation, right, and there's 24 incubation period, 24-day incubation period, we're in real trouble, because they've been incubating or quarantining people for 14 days, not 24. So if this virus has a incubation period of 24 days, that would make it not only one of the strongest viruses that has happened in a long period of time, due to the airborne rate of 9 days, but in addition to that 24 days incubation period. So I mean,
Yeah, you mean they've already been spreading it long before the quarantine started?
right.
Right. And I said 14 because I thought that's what you had said, but either way, it's the same point. And I would argue that would actually be very dangerous, if that is indeed the case. But this is coming from government information, governments that have verifiably lied about exactly this kind of situation in the past, right? So it's just kind of hard to take that at face value, in my opinion.
No, in my view, when it comes to this type of stuff, if multiple scientists are saying the same thing that aren't connected to each other, I think that's when we have to worry.
We should always worry, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's always worrying is that's what, regardless of my opinion or your opinion or anybody else's, we should absolutely be concerned and show, be cautious, be safe, be skeptical. That's what I was saying before, is even if I'm telling you I don't think this is real, doesn't mean you should go out and just, dash, say, screw it, I don't care. But, we should still be cautious, right? But it's like, we know for instance, the obvious question would be, I would agree with you, first of all, that if we're seeing these multiple, different institutions, different levels, different people with different motivations, concluding the same thing, that does definitely lend more credence to it. But the question would be, are they not capable of still making that happen? Of course they are, right? So my point is just simply that we take these things in, we use it based on, we collect all the data like you do, collect everything and come to your own conclusion based on it. But none of this is definitive, in my opinion. I mean, I don't think anything at this point can be, especially these days. Like, again, just taking a step back to whether we're talking about MERS or SARS, right? We know as a matter of fact, Cheryl Atkinson actually exposed a huge part of this, that the government willfully misrepresented the numbers, like flat out lied. They weren't even counting them anymore, and they were still just telling you they had numbers. So it's like, if they're willing to go that far, why would they not be willing to go this far for something that's obviously larger, grander, right? That's where my logic behind it anyway.
Yeah, I know. I understand what you're saying. And I just wanted to touch on the point about why China's not shutting down the internet. China has been removing some of these videos on Weibo and WeChat. I know that because I was in contact with somebody who was kind of leaking me some of these videos that were on Chinese media, social media. So they have been removing videos. So I don't know, like you said, why they wouldn't just shut down the whole entire internet. But maybe if they did that, they would cause mass panic, because we're starting to see there's a lot of videos that have come out of China where they're welding people into their homes, blocking their gates with dirt and then freezing it. There was a video of a Chinese Communist Party member going to somebody's home and locking them inside of it with a lock on the other side of the door. There's all types of videos that we're starting to see come out of China. And I think is it possible that they could fake something that large? Maybe, but I think that it's a lot that is being leaked out, in my opinion. So, like you said, kind of look at the data that you have and come up with your own conclusion.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, is it difficult? Absolutely. But, if you would have theorized about something like 9/11 before that, we would have been like, well, is that even possible? Could they do that across that many nations? You know what I mean? Like, it's definitely possible. But I'm with you on the idea that I think this is getting to the point where it's it's either that we fundamentally don't understand what's happening, or it is what it is. And this is but there's too many holes in the story for me to accept that at face value, but that's why my mind, as I said in the very beginning, comes back to the fact that this is something. This is a weapon, a bioweapon. And the only thing that makes sense to me, based on what's happening to China, is either that this was an attack by the United States or somebody else, or it was a thing that China was involved in that's gotten out of hand. Right. So and that would seemingly kind of tie up all the loose ends to what we're talking about. Right. Because that would mean that what's happening there is happening, that it was something, it's and I think the evidence in regard to the Wuhan lab is glaring when you understand that, for instance, groups like, I think you wrote an article, I talked about it on my show, about the Harvard professor, about the guy who stole the vials from Beth Israel, tried to, bring them back into China. Right. This stuff's obviously kind of happening both ways. We also know that Harvard was kicked out of China so many years back for trying to conduct ethnically focused bioweapon research, so China says anyway, but they were trying to steal Chinese DNA. And there's all these glaring examples of all these things that perfectly point to something like an ethnically focused bioweapon, which is what a lot of people say, things like SARS and MERS were, right? One in the Middle East, one for specifically China. Then, we're talking like 99% point something percent Chinese that are being affected here, That's just it's too hard to ignore.
Yeah, and in regards to that, even if we do take the government sources at face value, the World Health Organization actually admits that China had SARS leak out of a laboratory 3 out of 4 times, and the Chinese actually punished in 2004. The Chinese punished 5 officials for accidentally leaking the SARS virus. So the thing is, like, if we do take those sources at face value, right, the evidence is there that China in the past has had bioweapon accidents, and it's not out of the realm of possibility that this could be another accident, or it could be a deliberate attack. We don't know, but it's starting to point, like you said, in my opinion, it's starting to point towards being a bioweapon. And whether it's an accident or deliberate, we don't know. But in my opinion, it's pointing towards a bioweapon. And it's very interesting. I wanted to jump into what we were talking about earlier before we went live. Your video was removed that was talking about Francis Boyle. And Francis Boyle drafted the Anti-Bioweapons Act of 1989. And he went on a show, Geopolitics and Empire, and he said that the virus was a bioweapon. So, what's your thoughts on that? And tell us about how your video was taken down.
Yeah, that was before I saw Dr. Boyle discussing that. I was already kind of leaning toward my opinion that it made more sense that this was a bioweapon based on, U.S. research as well as China research and their past activities, as you mentioned. But once I saw that, it really just kind of, it made, we have to understand, first of all, that this is he drafted the U.S. Bioweapons Act. This is an expert in his field. He was blacklisted by the U.S. government and media when he was on an interview with Spiro. He openly talked about the fact that he exposed that anthrax was a man-made weapon that was intentionally released by the U.S. government. And that's why they blacklisted him, because he can't talk about stuff like that, So it's like, it's very revealing to hear stuff like that. And this is what I talked about in this video, that it was and the video was basically, this is about as reportable as it gets. An expert in his field, the author of the U.S. Bioweapons Act, openly saying he's looked at the research, he's done his investigation, and his opinion is that it's likely a bioweapon. And that's what I reported. And then stressed skepticism, and yet they take it down anyway. And as you likely know, Zero Hedge was also removed for talking about similar topics. And then, like the next day, we got the White House asking for investigation to the same topic. We've got CNBC talking about, oh, maybe it's a bioweapon. Like across the board, we've got a member of Congress saying that it's a possible bioweapon, and we're still being censored across the board. It's outrageous. And it just and reporting on something that, like, I made this point on my show. The U.S., the mainstream media will report what the white helmets will say from Syria, or some extremist on the ground about what the Syrian government's doing, as just they said so and so with no investigation. But we're reporting based on an expert's word and his opinion based on research, and that gets censored. And I guess they tagged it for harassment. I don't even know what that means. It's obvious censorship. It's just unreal. It's happening everywhere.
Yeah, and now we see that actually that the mainstream, kind of like the mainstream websites, are starting to talk about the possibility that it's actually a bioweapon, because now we see these headlines talking about China appointing the top military biowarfare experts to the virus lab in Wuhan. I mean, they appointed Chen Wei. She is like the highest level. She's a major general of the People's Liberation Army, and she's the expert on biowarfare. And she's appointed to that specific Wuhan lab. And now it is actually that is sparking more stories that it is actually a bioweapon. Now, it could also mean that the Chinese are actually maybe thinking that it's a bioweapon against them or something, and they're like appointing an expert on like dealing with it. It's also possible, or it's just like that this person is just an expert on like mass infections that would happen like in the case of a bioweapon, and that she's maybe capable of handling it. But still, it is interesting that they are actually putting forward these suggestions now in different articles. So
go ahead.
I was just going to say that the Chinese military site Xilu are the source for that, and they actually blamed the U.S. in a post, an article. This is the equivalent to the Pentagon news site. Okay, Xilu blamed the U.S. and said that the U.S. Released a bioweapon on China. So here we have the Chinese military news site saying that it's a bioweapon, except they're blaming the U.S. And then in the U.S., we have Francis Boyle saying it's a bioweapon and saying that it came from China. I'm just saying that I just wanted to say that we have both angles now saying that it's a bioweapon and blaming the other country.
Yeah, that's super interesting too, and I think it's smart of us to even consider the fact that if they're both saying that and pointing in the other direction, it's possible that it's neither, right? I mean, it's interesting how we get into this binary discussion where what if Israel did it? What if Israel did it to both of them? I'm like, there's plenty of possibilities. So it's interesting. I always find it fascinating how even those of us that do this, we find ourselves pulled into these discussions that are kind of framed by the mainstream media. And it's impossible to avoid because they, in a lot of ways, do kind of still maintain the narrative. But it's so interesting that, I always come back to the economy aspect, because I don't understand how in any way they would have done this unless that was an accidental byproduct of this. If it's going to just this could potentially be the downfall of China, the communist government in general. I mean, the information I'm seeing today, based on, there's so many factors. This is where was I looking at today? There was their steel industry, property sales, their traffic, the airline flights, all these things. To think about the effect that has on such a massive economy. It's pretty crazy. So that makes me consider, why would they have done this to them? Why would they have done this in their location if it was something? So that would make more sense that it was an accident, right? Or actually, here's an interesting thought. What are your guys' thoughts on the theory that this was some kind of a targeted attack on the protesters? Because I personally don't feel like that holds any water, but it's interesting.
No, yeah, it definitely could have been. The thing is that they were China was threatening the Hong Kong protesters before this even happened, right? And now all of a sudden the protests are out of the news and it's all focused on the virus. So, in the past, China has done some pretty horrific things to their people. So, is it a possibility that they would have done something like that? Maybe,
Well,
but
it would also be like a form of psychological warfare, like not to like target them to actually kill them, but to actually stop the protests by having these protesters ask the Chinese government for help to contain this.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting. The only thing that like that when that first thought came out, I thought, well, that's pretty interesting because it does benefit them. You could even argue that the United States might have done something to assist that to some degree, because I do think that there are obvious coordination behind the scenes that we don't see. Like the larger picture, we get this, the battle, and they are really against each other. But I think we know behind the scenes, like they work together when in regards to certain military projects. So it's interesting there. But I just don't see how, one, they could make a bioweapon that would differentiate between, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if there's a specific ethnic focus to the protesters, right? So how would that even happen? Because that would end up hurting everybody in their country, But
Right.
obviously, are they capable of it? I think absolutely. But so is the United States government, right? I mean, they've admitted to testing over 290 times with biological material on the United States populace.
Right.
You guys know, like Operation Sea Spray, for example.
LAC, Sea Spray, yeah, all those operations, yeah.
And another point too that with the economy aspect is that in regard to greatly benefiting the United States government, which could just be as a happy coincidence because it's just what it is. But the LNG natural gas industry is being absolutely affected in regard to China, which is a huge boon for the United States. So is in regard to their tariffs and the kind of trade war that's going on. Like all of this stuff is greatly benefiting the U.S. government too. But that doesn't necessarily prove that they did it. But there's a lot of things you can see here benefiting them. That's why I'm trying to find just for research sake, like if there was a third party that could benefit in based off trying to do this to everybody, who would that be? But I'm not really seeing anything that adds up yet.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that, on all those fronts.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and we reached the point that like pretty much the production of American companies or like European companies also moved to China. I mean, Tesla, for example, restarted production Monday, and they are based in China. They're producing again in China now. They started Monday because the whole holiday stuff ended, the extended holiday. And then when I read it, I thought like, yeah, okay, but these are like the companies busy with the so-called reshaping the whole green stuff here in these areas, like moving everyone to electric cars. So obviously, it's also affecting our industry. I know Volkswagen is like one of the largest German car producers and probably one of the largest producers in the world. Has not yet restarted production. They plan to restart it the 18th, I think, the 19th. So they're obviously also affected. So it does affect both sides. But it's interesting that you guys mentioned that it has to do with the whole. It could have to do with the whole trade war thing, but it affects both sides anyway. I mean, it's too late for that, I guess. 20 years
Yeah.
ago, it was different. The production was not yet there, but it's like all moved to there now. So.
See, for me, the situation that happened in Canada with a Chinese scientist sending coronavirus to the Wuhan lab, I think that that's kind of the smoking gun, in my opinion. Because in July of last year, a Chinese couple who were both scientists were arrested for smuggling out coronavirus and sending it to the Wuhan lab. And I think that combined with the job offer that was in November of last year, saying that they wanted to, that specific lab, which Zero Hedge pointed out, that specific lab had a job request for taking bats and kind of merging that into a SARS virus. So just that alone for me, that kind of says that this was a bio accident, in my opinion. I think that's where the evidence kind of points, as Francis Boyle said. This is all stuff that Francis Boyle kind of discussed. The interview is very good. It'll probably be pulled down everywhere, if not, if it hasn't already been pulled down. They are in my opinion, they're in damage control mode with Francis Boyle saying that, because he's a authoritative figure, and his opinion matters on that, because he wrote countless books on bioweapons, and he drafted the Anti Bioweapons Act. So that's my opinion on that.
Yeah, I agree. I think he when he talked with Spiro, he elaborated a little more on the fact that he's not his conclusion based on Occam's razor and based on what he's talking about, that it came down to he thinks it was China responsible from the Wuhan lab, but he then said in the Spiro interview that he ultimately could go either way, right? Based on the evidence, it could go either way. That was just kind of what he chose to make his opinion based on the data. So it's just it's interesting to see this back and forth between it all. And I think you're right. I think that has to come down to, I mean, I don't know if you saw the article Whitney Webb wrote for The Last American Vagabond about, bats and the U.S. research, and the fact that they have specifically been focusing on bat coronavirus research for decades. It's like, it just gets kind of ridiculous when you start to see all these things, but it goes both ways. So is China, so is a lot of people, I think that shipping corona, and that's what I think one of the biggest problems that I'm sure you guys are probably aware of. Most people, the average person, isn't still not aware that the coronavirus is pretty common in regard to, the common cold, like the like listing it back on the back of the Lysol bottle. People go, oh, proof, and it's like, no, it's been there for a long time. And so it's a little bit of a misunderstanding scenario, so it's like, you could argue, you could probably show a pathway between US-based, Canadian-based, or different labs that are sending these coronavirus samples all over the place. It just so happened that Wuhan ended up being the focal point, or so we're told anyway, right? Because if it could have been something other than that, that's just the story we're getting. We already find out that the wet market narrative at least seems to be not true, right? We find that the original person, as well as a lot of people that were the first affected, had no contact with the market or the animals or anybody that was there.
Yep.
So it's interesting, right? It's none of this stuff seems to add up.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. And then there's other scientists that are now saying, in India, they said that this had a HIV proteins in it, and then other scientists are saying that they haven't found that, and it's like, it's a lot of information that's going around on this, and there's contradicting information all over the place. I agree on that front. For sure.
Well, if I could note on that real quick, that's really interesting, the study, because that's important to think about, because I think that's a great example of the political pressure. Because as Boyle, as I'm sure you saw in the interview too, Boyle talks about, I'm not sure if you saw the Spiro one or not, but he talks about that in that interview, about the pressure there, that they had this research that came out. And as you know, it wasn't peer reviewed. It was just their research, very preliminary, and they just put it out in the world and said, "Here's what we think we found." And the data was the data. Like, the argument is they're saying that it wasn't, that they didn't prove that it was man-made. Then they got pressure to pull it back, and they pulled it back. And then everyone said, "See, they pulled it back. It wasn't real." But that's not actually what happened. It was, the data was there, the research was done. They just didn't like what they thought they found, and then that just got disappeared all of a sudden, So it's like, wow. And then, of course, it ties in with the idea of SARS, and then that ties back to the larger idea that this has all the hallmarks of a man-made disease, every single one of them, and that's what he gets to, and why he ultimately thinks it's a bioweapon. It's very interesting. Yeah. That political pressure is such a huge red flag, right? Especially when it's a legitimately done experiment that they just didn't like the findings, so they just attack them. It's kind of alarming.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. And as far as Whitney Webb's article goes, no, I haven't. I didn't even know Whitney Webb wrote for your website. I had no idea. But if you send me the article, I'll read it after the show. But yeah, I didn't even know that she wrote for your website.
Yeah, well, Activist Post put it up too as well. She's I think that's actually the first time she's wrote an original for The Last American Vagabond. So that's probably why.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's cool. I didn't know that.
I think I know, Ryan, you have like limited time with us tonight, and we already discussed like before the show that we would do like future episodes with you again, and we can discuss this more and more. But I do think this is like the perfect moment because you guys were talking about the media manipulation and silencing of whistleblowers, silencing of people who were trying to get the truth out, and I was reading so many conflicting stories about all this and not really knowing what is true anymore in the end because of that. And that is of course the perfect link to the Assange situation, right? Because that is the perfect example of how this happens here in the West on a massive scale. That we know how they how WikiLeaks has, for example, always delivered facts leaks with like a 100% accuracy rate, and still we see this platform being attacked and Assange being attacked in sometimes such a cruel way that it shocks the activist community every day again, and it is starting to shock the world of journalism now too. So maybe we should switch to the Assange topic if you guys are okay with that.
Sure. Yeah. No. Definitely.
Yeah, that's definitely something I think we should all be passionate about. And what's so interesting about this topic to start off is that, you know, I was even one that was entertaining the possibility in the past about, you know, like the time when he disappeared and people say, oh, what happened to him? Maybe it's maybe they took him and he's not really there anymore, or maybe it's been a psyop from the very beginning, and there's all these theories flying around. That of course ignores the fact that the information that's come out has been real and beneficial and, all that stuff. But nonetheless, regardless of any of it, now that it's there and is where it is now, what I find so interesting, people even still comment under my discussions about this and say, oh, Julian Assange is a shill. And I respond and I just go, look, at this point, it's irrelevant. Regardless of whether, let's just say he is completely a shill for the government, they're still going to use him and this idea to attack us in the same way. So we should still fight what they're doing, regardless of what he was. I don't think that's the case, in my opinion. I think he's, a hero in all honesty. But it's just funny that we can't get past that mark. It's like they're using this to attack free speech, no matter how you look at it. And that's very, very alarming. As you guys probably saw, they even just said that not even just WikiLeaks, but anonymous as well, but just public disclosure groups, they're now labeling as much a threat as ISIS, which is just. I mean, it's a testament to how Orwellian we are today. Like it's unbelievable that you can have people like, anonymous as well, that will actively find information that's, that the people deserve to see. And they release that information. And instead of even trying to attack the honesty, the veracity of the content, as always, they go after the person. And I think we should all know by now that that's a classic marker of not having an argument, right? Gaslighting, ad hominem attacks. Like if you can't address the content, you're wrong, right? You don't have an argument, and that's what we're seeing. Sending people to prison for telling the truth. It's unreal.
Yeah, it's not even just that though. They're going after leaktivists. They're going after activists. They're going after hacktivists. They're labeling everybody terrorist, which is insane. Like that's tyranny. Like that is fucking tyranny. If I've ever seen tyranny in my life, that is tyranny. When you are labeling somebody who is exposing corruption as a terrorist, you, like, as Obama said, you have something to hide. You remember that quote by Obama? Only those, I'm paraphrasing, but only those who have something to hide are scared. Like I know that's not exactly it, but
directly taken from Goebbels in the 1930s in Nazi Germany.
Is it really? Yeah, I didn't know that.
Right. Classic propaganda, as always. It's. I mean, the fact that someone like WikiLeaks, for example, can release information that people like Chelsea Manning risked their lives to bring to us, and we now know, as a matter of fact, that what they released was 100% true. At the very least, no one has ever even attempted to say that it's false. Not the government, it's all valid information that's been confirmed. And since that point, not only have they never even attempted to bring to justice anyone that was involved in the crimes they exposed, but as you know, they've actively gone after every single person that was involved in exposing the things that we all know are true. Like that's the most absurd, ridiculous thing I've ever looked at in my life. And I think that people are making a choice on this topic. You're either willing to ignore that this person did no wrong, but we're protecting the security state, or you see what the reality is. Like, I don't see how there can be middle ground if you understand the information. Didn't break any laws. That's why they have to manipulate the story about Chelsea Manning to pretend like he forced her to do it, which is why she's also in jail, because she's not towing that line. It's like, it's just outrageous. We have people like Mills Nelsner, who's the torture rapporteur for the UN, right? Who is right now, he's been speaking out for months now, saying, look, this guy's been tortured, psychologically tortured, and there's no other person that has more weight when they say that than the rapporteur on torture for the UN.
Right.
And not only has the UK and the US they haven't responded. They have a mandate to respond, like they're obligated to respond, and they just don't care. It's like rampant lawlessness, man. It's a crazy time that we're in. That mask has been ripped off for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, Trump's whole "I'm draining the swamp" is completely killed. if it wasn't enough, where he filled the swamp with Goldman Sachs and Blackwater and yeah, oh god, that's bad.
Yeah, but isn't that disturbing? Like we've been talking now almost for an hour now about the virus, right? And that we actually need to get the reliable information out. We need to have journalists, and we need to have whistleblowers giving us the truth. And then it is kind of how disturbing is it that we are dealing now with like a journalist or a publisher like Assange facing this? Like we're on the brink of a possible having like mass infections here in our areas. We need the reliable information now. Now it matters most that we get all the truth from journalists and leakers and whistleblowers. Now this is the wrong moment to have this lawsuit.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting point to think about, like, in regard to coronavirus and why we need that now. I mean, the best way to look at it is imagine if Chelsea Manning hadn't taken putting her life on the line to bring this information to us, and Julian Assange hadn't created WikiLeaks to do so. Think about how different things would be, right? I mean, that's the argument that they're saying, well, that's not okay because, national security, blah, blah, blah. This world would be different right now. Like the interaction between the American people and their government would be different. We would not know, at least, who knows what else might have happened. But in regard to that specific event, we wouldn't know that they were murdering journalists and covering it up. We wouldn't know that they were all the things that we know. I mean, that's chilling to think about. And that's what they are telling us is better. I just don't understand how anybody can see that other than attacking innocent people to cover up their crimes. That's what it is. And to your point, that's what we need them for now. We need those people who are going to release the truth about coronavirus and risk their lives to do so. You're totally right. It's just they don't care. The government doesn't care anymore.
Yeah, in regards to that, I just wanted to say that, in my opinion, the plan that General Wesley Clark said of invading 7 countries within 5 years, I think that plan was either stalled or delayed or potentially even stopped by the leaks that WikiLeaks put out on Iraq and Afghanistan, because those leaks spurred the anti-war movement in that time period. And a lot of people forget that the anti-war movement did not happen by itself or by people just organizing. It happened because of those leaks that WikiLeaks put out and the outrage that people had from those leaks. So I argue that Assange is a hero for stopping the military-industrial complex from further moving into the Middle East. And if we did not have WikiLeaks, that we would be in Sudan, Iran, definitely Syria by now. Even though Russia and Iran have now kind of sided with Syria against the U.S.'s invasion, I think that without WikiLeaks, I think that we would be in there, and it would be hell. They don't care. They just wanted to use soldiers as pawns and just make a profit off of oil and off of other natural resources. So Yeah, in my opinion, Assange is a hero for leaking that, and so is Chelsea Manning, because without them, we would be in a different world today.
I agree. It's a really good way to look at it. It's I haven't considered that, and that's very possible. That clearly we can see that was trudging along, and at some point there was definitely a hitch in that plan. That seems like an obvious potential. I mean, think about what that caused. And again, that's exactly what we're saying. The world was flipped on its ear with that. They were scrambling, and now their whole plans have changed. I mean, if this comes to fruition and they extradite him and probably put him to death, right? Or he mysteriously dies along the way or in prison, right? I mean, this will. I take that back. I think that what they want to do is actually publicly put this away, at least not publicly because it's going to be a secret hearing, but put him in prison or something like that, because they want to make a statement. And once that happens, it's going to change the landscape of journalism, right? I mean, because look, we already have the UK law they just passed, which basically just gave social media platforms the justification to ban whatever they want whenever they want. Because they said, I don't know if you guys saw it, but the whole idea is that now social media companies are going to be held accountable by the UK government for not pulling back dangerous and hateful content. So now they just gave them a carte blanche, because now all they're going to say is, oh, well, I just did it because we don't want to get fined, And so it's all leading that direction, and it's just going to be the end of journalism. I mean, we're not going to be. They're going to remove us from platforms. They're going to stop us from talking. That's what they want to do. And I think we all need to, again, even those out there that think Julian Assange is not what he seems to be, we all need to come together, regardless of your opinion, and fight for this. We are literally fighting for the last surviving aspect of independent media. It's a powerful time to get involved, in my opinion.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. In regards to Julian Assange's extradition, it'll set two statements. One is it'll set a precedent for journalism. Two, it'll set a precedent where the CIA is now allowed to spy on people who are in asylum. And when you're in asylum and you're an asylee, you're there because you're threatened by a country. And in this case, Julian Assange sought asylum because of the U.S., right? So if he gets extradited, that will set the precedent that it's now okay for the CIA to spy on asylum seekers, which is just a crazy, crazy statement that would be set, besides the statement on journalism.
Let me make that worse real quick, because the people who actually spied on him were UC Global. Which is the Spanish version of this is kind of like a Spanish version of Blackwater. So even they might be working for the CIA, they're a company, a commercial company, and they're spying in a foreign embassy where they shouldn't even be there, but they're a company.
Jeez, talk about unaccountability. The CIA is unaccountable. Now they hire their own mercenaries. Now we're next level unaccountable at that point. But to add on top of that, it's interesting to think, like what you're saying in regard to the spying in asylum. We're also talking about normalizing the idea that somehow the U.S. government can apply its laws anywhere in the world, right? We're talking about a foreign, not an American citizen who did this outside of the U.S., but yet the U.S. somehow has the right to pull them into the U.S. to apply their laws to this person. It's just chilling in every possible way. This is rampant lawlessness, and I don't think they even care anymore. As I was saying, I don't think they've ever cared about us, but they no longer care that we see what they are, and I think that has to be a chilling moment for us to see that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
Did I lose you guys?
No. I'm here. I was just reading through the topics to see what we could talk about real quick, because I know you got to go.
Yeah, it looks like I got a couple minutes left, so should probably say it was a pretty damn good discussion. I'm glad you guys had me on. I think I look forward to coming back on when you guys want to have another discussion about all kinds of stuff. Maybe, and hopefully when I have a little bit more time when we can just go to town. But yeah, this is it's been a good show, guys.
Yeah, no, you can come back whenever, man. Just let us know when you're free, or just pop in.
Yeah, and I think these two subjects, yeah, like were like very relevant for these upcoming days, especially. Like, I mean, in 9 days we have the first part, the first day of the big extradition lawsuit, and it's going to matter for all of us. Like, there's going to be huge protests, of course. But we need to make it larger, as big as we can. We need to like wake everyone up to this because it is like a crucial moment in time now. So
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Yeah, I just said I couldn't agree more. It's paramount that people take the time to get involved, take the time to speak your mind. Don't self censor anymore. That they absolutely bank on people being too afraid to speak their mind and censor themselves because they're afraid to be labeled as somehow fringe. Understand, people listening, the fringe is the majority today. We need to start recognizing that, and then once we do, I think a lot will change.
Yeah, in regards to that, social media censorship, that's a really good topic to discuss next time for sure. Because we need to collectively work together, and I am collectively working with a whole bunch of alt tech companies to try to combat this censorship. But the thing is, when they are making these laws, these companies have to follow the laws too, otherwise they face fines. So it's really getting down to the wire right now, for sure.
okay, I think the time is really short because these subjects they we listed, they require a lot of discussion. I mean, there's so much information about these subjects. So I would suggest we Ryan maybe just mention to all the listeners, yeah, how they can find you and where they should be going to actually hear your podcasts and get your story.
Yeah, thelastAmericanVagabond.com is the website. That's a good one-stop shop for pretty much everything that associates with the Last American Vagabond in general. On the YouTube channel, Last American Vagabond, I do the daily show, the daily wrap-up, usually about five to six times a week about what's going on. That's seems to be the kind of the focal point these days for what's going on. But you can find the Last American Vagabond on just about any platform you search for the most part. Just search the Last American Vagabond and you'll find it. And just I would say to follow the podcast, you can go on iTunes because I do the audio version of the daily wrap up on the podcast as well. iTunes, Blueberry, Stitcher, anywhere. Just reach out and find us. Help support the, fight for the truth. And thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate this. It would be fun to have me on again and talk about all kinds of, everything else we didn't get to today.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah, and on that, it was interesting, like how many different platforms Ryan mentions that you can find him on there, and that is, for now, it seems to be the only solution that we're dealing with, like a lot of social media censorship, and you should never use just like one big platform. I know a lot of you guys like use either like YouTube or Facebook or whatever. Well, you get a huge following there, and then you get shadow banned or you get deleted and you get censored in so many ways, and then you lose everything. And like what guys like Ryan are doing, and what we are also trying to do is like we just branch out to all social media, as many places as we can get. So if we get censored, we'll always be available somewhere. And
Right.
yeah,
See, I'm trying to actually reach out, make connections with the CEOs so they won't censor. Oh, man.
oh yeah, and I want to thank you, Ryan, for being on. By the way, I just saw you in the chat saying you have to go, and really appreciate it. And I wanna ask the listeners to share this everywhere you can, and find him on what he said the other platforms. So
Well, yeah, appreciate you having me on, guys. Thanks again. And looking forward to talking with you next time.
All right, man. Have a good day.
You too, guys. Bye-bye.
so we apologize if we didn't cover like every subject. Like we wanted to do like hundreds and hundreds of subjects, but there, this guests and yeah, ourselves too. Like we have a lot of information to give about these subjects, so it was perhaps wiser to pick out one or two very important subjects and just give as much information as we can about it, and then we'll bring him back and we'll talk again about some other subjects that really matter to him and to us, and then you get the in-depth information. But I don't know, AK. I mean, we can still discuss some things if you want.
Yeah, I mean that's up to you if you want to get into censorship and stuff like that. Because I would love to get into that because of what we've been actually seeing happen on Facebook is pretty scary, man. Pretty scary. I'm seeing people locked out of their accounts for sharing information in regard to the coronavirus. I'm seeing um, uh, our own channel, The Mind Unleashed, being kind of content Nazi'd on fact checking. Like these fact checkers are insane. They've flagged us multiple times and gone after us for like the most minuscule like things, like a title, like oh my god, man, it's bad. It's getting so bad at Facebook. It's crazy, and it's only going to get worse as the U.S. election comes forward. And I really do highly recommend people to diversify their online presence. Use alternative social media platforms. Use Gab. Use Float.app, which is another one that I just started connecting to. Use the project that I'm involved with, Somi.social. Minds. What was it? What was the Mastodon? There's all sorts of social media sites, but the problem is, and where I'm trying to get to, is that these social media sites, they don't have the users, and we need to bring in users, and that's the kind of hurdle that we got to leap over. But the thing is, what I'm trying to do is I'm reaching out and getting all of these companies involved with each other, partnering with each other, working together, in all types of different ways. And what I really want to do is I want to get all companies together and bring them together to maybe make a board where they can work and discuss together what we can do, because we really need to start fighting. We really need to fight back, or we're going to lose our free speech and our internet. It's already starting to happen. We're starting to see the U.S. Trying to push for internet laws. We're seeing the EU push for internet laws. They already passed ACTA 2 last year. So, I mean, guys, we need to start fighting. We need to network together, and we have to fight back and build alternative platforms.
Yeah, and like with the whole diversification, I mean, you just every listener, you guys just need to join like all these platforms. Like it's all about the users, and yeah, there's many of these platforms. They don't have as many users as like YouTube or Facebook, but it all depends on you guys. You just have to join it, and you have to just advertise them and make sure that everyone joins all of these platforms, and you reduce the dependency on like one platform. And I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, and I know veteran ABB users. We don't broadcast on Facebook anymore, and that's just to make a point. We can and broadcast there. We'll get a lot of listeners still. We could, but we don't, because that was the example of where it was really worst. It's still worst, we believe, but other platforms are becoming are censoring more and more too now. Uh, I know veteran listeners of ABB remember that if you would share our episode on Facebook, after doing 2 shares outside outside of your profile or whatever, doing 2 shares to like other groups you were in, you would get locked out of your account. 2 shares, sharing the ABB show
Yeah.
twice, it would like be locked out. Someone had to fill their ID card in. Some would be limited for 7 days or 30 days for just sharing a show. And it wasn't tagged as spam or anything. It was for some reason you just get locked out. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. We're starting to see that, like, with certain content, where people get locked out of their accounts, and that's insanity. You know, if you're getting locked out of your Facebook account, you should be deleting that shit and starting to diversify into other social media platforms. And the thing is, like, Twitter, I think Twitter is still pretty bad, but it's not as bad as it was during the 2016 election. During the 2016 election, they literally made me vanish from the website, and my notifications, like when somebody sent me a message, I would not be able to respond to them, and they wouldn't see my response unless they went physically to my page. Like,
Yeah, yeah, no, I remember that. That you were dealing with a lot of censorship. I dealt with it myself in with the Stop ACTA too.
right?
Voting
Yeah.
around it. This is early 2019. I was shadow banned and like no one could read my stuff. And at the moment the actual vote was done, and the ACTA thing was made into law, the second later everything worked again, fine. And
Right.
this
Yeah,
is
they turn you off.
no, it just turned me off. And I did the same surrounding the Assange arrest when he was. We knew he would be arrested. We knew he would be taken out of the embassy. I made 2 weeks before it happened, and we were talking about it, and we were saying like, protesters, you have to go there now. We were organizing protests there. We were trying to wake
Yep.
up people, and they started to mess with that too. But the weirdest thing was the night before he was arrested. Everything, my Twitter, everything was shadow banned. Everything was locked out, and shortly after he was arrested, everything worked again.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They don't only shadow ban. You know, they reduce your reach and other things. Like Facebook is reducing the reach of. I've heard multiple people say this now, and I actually have a leak from somebody who used to work for Facebook, um, and they're actually working with us now. But basically, they have the ability to, and I think Project Veritas might have reported on this too. They have the ability at Facebook to kind of reduce your reach on your post. So if you have 9 million or 10 million or 12 million followers or subscribers, you know, they can limit it to reach, like, say, only 100,000 or only 50,000 or whatever they want to limit it to.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you talk about a certain subject too much, they put you on kind of like a sort of a blacklist or something, and they just switch the blacklist on off on whenever they want. They unplug them, like, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely insane. That's why I'm saying, like, people need to diversify, get on other platforms, and me personally, I'm going to be working with some of these platforms to try to expand them and build them up and get more and more people on these platforms, because I think that we have one shot here to stop social media censorship. And if we just sit back and don't do anything, our rights are going to be gone. And before you know it, snap of the fingers, gone.
Yeah, and I want to say that's what it is. It is our rights. I don't care about my own reach. I don't care. It is they're not, they will not be able to censor me. They will not be able to censor you either. Okay, because you write for a lot of platforms and all these things, and I don't worry about us. We'll find our way out. But it is all our rights. Every listener. I don't know how big your voices are if you're listening to this show. I don't know how much reach or whatever you have, how much influence you have. You want to get your word out. You want an equal voice. You want your voice to be heard by people, and you want to be able to speak out. And this censorship is hitting all of you, and you're not really going to be able to stop it without working together on this and without finding solutions actively.
Right.
Solutions.
Yeah, no, that's definitely it. And yeah, I mean, like, I'm not worried about my own reach. Like, here's the thing, like, the sites that I write for, other sites aggregate their articles Like, like I have a ring to several alternative media platforms. I mean, if I have something I have to get out, I'll get it out. Like that's what these dinosaur social media companies don't realize. It's like we're all networked together. We're all friends in the alternative media. I've known Christian Ryan Christian for a few years now. I've known a lot of different alternative media journalists for several years. So it's like we're all friends. If you fuck us over, trust me. All right, trust me. We're going to build a solution, another platform, and we're going to leave you behind in the dust. Bring all of our followers, and it's going to get ugly. We will cause a mass exodus, and we can do it. And it's like they don't think that we can. It's like they feel like Facebook feels that they're too big to fail, and I really feel that they need to fail. Um, so in the future, and people think that Facebook can't fail, but the thing is, like, you know, years ago, MySpace was the big thing before Facebook, right? MySpace failed, so
Yeah,
I mean, Facebook can fail.
yeah,
It's just a matter of time.
yeah. Facebook is already lying about the numbers. Like, uh, people are not deleting their accounts in massive numbers, but the participation is dropping fast. People are spending less and less time on it, and I did speak to a lot of people, and they say like, yeah, I'm not spending time on Facebook anymore, but I actually keep it as a storage for my picture, because they offer
Right.
free picture storage for me, and I just log in, I take the pictures I want, and I download these, and then I post these on other places. That's what I use it for. That's pretty much what they tell me.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, like with Facebook and even Twitter, it's like if Facebook and Twitter they don't offer you anything besides stealing your user data. There's now platforms where people can get paid in cryptocurrency for using the platform, and at the same time, they still own their data. It's not owned um, by the other company. Like, we're recognizing that what the big social has been doing to users for years. And personally, the reason why I even got involved with Somi is because of the fact that Chris, the CEO, wants to allow users to control their own user data that goes to advertisers. If you want to share data to advertisers and get a profit share of that, you can. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. You're fully in control of your data, and that's the way that we move forward. Is we create something like that, and we force these other big companies to do something like that.
Yeah, to at least recognize that their users are actually a big community of people, and they are actually benefiting them too. And they shouldn't be like abused like that,
Yeah.
like used like some kind of cash cow or whatever. They shouldn't. They're real people. If you make them happy, they'll help you too. Yeah.
Yeah, but in regard to like Facebook, I mean, they literally sell their users' data. They've sold their user data to tons and tons of third parties, and that's not right. Like that's not right for them to sell user data like that. And it's crazy that they even started doing that because they have ads. They're $1 billion company. They have ads where you can pay to boost your content on there, right? And there's tons and tons of people, probably like millions and millions that use that feature, right? And then at the same time, they're selling user data. It doesn't make sense. Like, why would they start doing that?
Yeah, and they
They're literally shooting themselves in the foot.
yeah,
Like,
and then they don't have to do it like you're saying. They don't have to do it because think about like Google, for example. Now, I'm not going to. I don't want to promote Google, but they have like an AdSense system, right? And then website publishers can put like ads, Google ads on their site, so they can make some money per click. Someone clicks on the ads, and that you earn like a few cents, or sometimes even a few bucks. But so Facebook
It
could
used to be, yeah.
yeah, Facebook can easily do something similar. Like there are big advertisers, big shops using Facebook for their reach. Facebook could easily make like an ad system that people actually advertise these ads on websites or whatever. That big pages on Facebook who use this for their audience could pay a few bucks, and as a publisher you get a share of that in return for advertising them. Like there are plenty other ways for them to make money without harvesting user data, and that is they're choosing not to utilize this. They know this is possible. I mean they're not stupid. We're not like giving them like the best idea ever right now. They already know it.
Yeah, no, definitely. But the thing is, like, they're not sharing. Like, they could be sharing revenue with their users, and there are platforms out there now that are doing that. Like, the platform that I'm working with.
Well, like Sony, but also like Steemit, for example,
But
does it too. Like,
Steemit doesn't share ad revenue. They share post rewards though. So I mean, like,
yeah.
you can get post rewards on different sites, or in the case of what we're working on, it's ad revenue share plus post rewards. So I mean, there are other sites out there now for users to take advantage and monetize their work. And I think for creators, this is very important because we're seeing YouTube censor the hell out of people. And also we're starting to see like Google censoring websites for news, and they're killing alternative media, and they're also killing certain other niche topics, like for instance cryptocurrency. Like Google and YouTube, they collectively banned certain crypto apps and crypto YouTubers all at once, and then they rolled it back after realizing, oh fuck, we can't do this; it's too big. But that's the thing. It's like they are starting to censor creators, and it's not right. If somebody creates content, they should have a right to be able to monetize it and make money off of it, because they're taking their time out to create that content. And what YouTube started doing is they started to bow to the advertisers over the users, and it's no longer YouTube. Like, it's not anymore. And it's crazy, and because of this, that's why these sites are now needed for creators, because everybody needs to be able to get by and live, and if you're creating content, you should have the right to monetize your own content.
Right? You're delivering unique content to a platform. They should be caring much more about that. Like, people don't realize that all the content they put out on like Facebook is all like unique content. You're actually doing a lot of writer work for these people, and all you get in return is like, they leech all your data. They like remotely tap into your webcam to listen to watch you. Like, this is how can you even accept this? This is insanity.
I don't know about that, but I know that they
can.
were spying on the microphone. They were like, this was written, and people don't believe this, but this was written in a patent where they wanted the ability to tap into somebody's microphone and listen for TV shows, to better give them content of TV shows on the platform. Like, I'm not making this up. Like, this is legitimate. I don't know if it ever went through. I have no idea, but it was suggested. And if it was suggested, like, you gotta wonder, why would they suggest something like that? What else did they implement that wasn't just an idea?
Yeah, and like regarding Facebook, yeah, I've seen the patents. They can do it with microphones. They can do it with webcams. And honestly, if you are on like going on like Facebook Messenger and you have to click a button and it instantly activates your webcam and your microphone, and it doesn't give you even a pop-up, it just instantly activates. Just realize that they can press that same button too. They're actually running the back end of it. You're not the only one able to press a button on that website. It's their website. they can press it too, and they will open your
Right.
account. So, and another thing surrounding Facebook, they actually went to hospitals, I think, and they tried to get information, medical information about people, and they want to link that to accounts too. So it's really disturbing.
Yeah, I saw that recently. I was fucking like completely creeped out. I was like, all right, that's one. It's one thing for user data. Now you're trying to go to hospitals and get users' fucking health data. What the fuck? And it's not only Facebook, Google too, and I think Amazon as well. Like these companies, there needs to be a foot put down by somebody. Like it's one thing for one company to have health data, but it's another thing for a big megalithic company to have your health data, your user data, your search data. Like all the websites that you visit. It's a lot, man. Like it's too much.
Yeah, and now the whole 5G thing is rolling out. It's going to get worse because we're going to see targeted ads on the street, like you're walking past a bus stop and the ad changes according to your likes on a site like Facebook, and yeah, and we'll have like this. This is really
Is that what they want to do?
yeah, yeah. They want to have personalized ads on the street, and I think they've already been testing with it. Like you will just walk on the street and they personalize ads on you, right? And that is really weird. Like
Personalized ads on your phone or on a billboard or like
yeah, on like literally on billboards, like bus stops and other places.
the fuck?
Yeah, yeah. You can you can find this on. You can search for this on. I don't want to say Google. Search on DuckDuckGo or something.
DuckDuckGo, pre-search, fucking Ecosia, like anything but Google.
Yeah.
Make sure you search on Ecosia and help plant a tree.
Yeah. But this is the Internet of Things thing, of course. They want this. They don't care about you having a higher speed internet. It's going to be nice for Netflix or whatever, but it matters for them to be able to do targeted ads on the street and these things. And in the near future, yeah, you will also be able. They will make contracts with like the high quality street cameras, and you'll be able to tag your friends on the street cameras on the street. You'll see this happening.
Well, in regards to that, I mean, fuck, like, Jesus. But the 5G, I mean, the 5G has been already challenged by several doctors and everybody saying that it's fucking dangerous and that it can cause cancer and that it will weaken the immune system and all sorts of other claims that doctors have come out and said. So, yeah, man, that's crazy. They will trade our health and safety for ads.
Yeah. Yeah, well, but yeah, I get the whole advertising thing on the street. It makes sense to do it like that, but people have to realize how much their society will change, because that's the moment. And you also they will do more and more with augmented reality, right? That will also be a thing in the near future.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing: AR can be good or bad. Like it could be good for education and learning, but it can also be a tool of enslavement. It depends on how it's used, and it depends on what software and programs that they create for augmented reality. I mean, it could be good or bad for humanity. Like it's like AI. AI can be good or bad for humanity. It's like the blockchain. The blockchain can be good or bad for humanity. Governments could use the blockchain too. And that's not saying that for people, cryptocurrency isn't just blockchain technology. It's a mix of financial technology and blockchain technology. So it's a misconception to say that cryptocurrency is blockchain technology. It's most crypto, it uses blockchain technology, obviously, because it uses a ledger, but it's not only just blockchain technology and cryptocurrency; it's also fintech and all types of like tokenomics and stuff like that. So, yeah, but it could be good or bad for humanity. AR, it just depends.
Yeah, it has some funny things too. I was talking with a friend from in my town, and so someone randomly built like, I think it was Minecraft. Someone randomly built like a Minecraft castle in like a garden of another guy, and this was augmented reality. So this other guy, without knowing, had this Minecraft castle in his garden, and he had like kids in his garden all day. Because they were on their phones or whatever, and they were seeing this Minecraft castle. They were playing in his garden, like they were doing Minecraft, and he didn't even understand why would these kids be why these kids were in his garden all day. Like, this is funny. It was with his
That
Pokemon.
is fucking yeah. See, that's funny. That's funny, but at the same time, yeah, it's like stuff like that could be dangerous. Like, you know, for instance, like if you remember the ARG game they came out with a few years ago for Pokemon
Yeah.
on the phone. If you remember that shit, you remember how it got fucking people killed and fucking guy fell off a cliff trying to catch a fucking Pokemon and like all types of shit. You know, like that's the danger of these, and that's not even full ARG. AR or not ARG. Well, that would be an ARG, but it's not augmented reality. It's just a ARG game.
Yeah, that
So
was kind
I
of
mean,
like a failing augmented reality. The Pokemons would just randomly pop up. Like they were just randomized. They were not really based on the reality. They were just popping up in the weirdest places. So, yeah.
yeah, I remember reading a story. Well, there's actually a few. One was that a guy literally like climbed towards a cliff to try to catch like a rare Pokemon and fell and died. And the reason why I'm laughing about that is just because I have dark humor, and it's like, why the fuck would you do something like that? You know, like, no, Cliff, no, don't try to catch it. It's not worth it, man. Don't do it. You're gonna die. Yeah. But there was also another couple stories I saw where like they didn't realize how bad or how dangerous this game could be because people were literally like camping out in like parks and shit for people playing this game, and they were robbing them. Um,
Yeah.
because you could in the game you could trade with people, right? And you could
Yeah.
like beacon yourself. You know, that's a danger, man. Like you can't, you can't just trade with random fucking people, beacon your phone.
Yeah, no, I remember this from like with the whole RuneScape times. I knew guys who would like beat up people for RuneScape gold. I remember this, and uh,
What?
yeah, like they knew like a RuneScape guy. These people were like they wanted to have the RuneScape gold so bad it would beat people up for it, and they would like threaten people, give me your RuneScape gold, and I'll beat you up.
What? Wait, how would this work though? This is like this isn't like a phone, man. It's like using a computer. The fuck would they show up at their house and be like, "Give me your RuneScape
Yeah,
gold"?
yeah, this would happen like that. So this has only made it easier. Yeah,
That's fucking insane.
yeah.
So,
But
I mean, I could see WoW gold, but fuck RuneScape gold. Like, was that even worth anything? Like,
well, at some point there was like before WoW, because it's kind of like similar to WoW, but WoW, but it was like older, so there was a whole big community, and there's like especially like I think the whole World of Warcraft community. A lot of people are also former RuneScape players, so yeah, it's just it moves to newer games. But similar, I mean, it was very similar. You could do very the same things. I wasn't really an active player. I know one guy in our server is still doing it die hard. But,
what RuneScape?
yeah, yeah. You have like classic, new edition, and it gets all like a new.
Oh my god, man! Like, they at least upgrade the graphics and that shit. Like that shit was bad. Like I
Yeah,
I
pretty
saw
sick.
people playing that shit, and I was like, oh no, never, never, never.
Yeah, yeah. No, it seems there's like a new version, and so like nice graphics and all that stuff. But it seems to be like a whole community that still prefers the old game over the new stuff. But like with the whole targeted ads, yeah, well, the augmented reality is also a thing for targeted ads, right? You can display ads like pretty much everywhere. You go to a supermarket and you can literally have like the ads for another supermarket on the walls without the supermarket knowing it. So,
Now that would be funny.
yeah, but I think it happens already. I'm not sure. I'm not so much into it, but I would do it as an
I
advertiser.
haven't seen that yet. Like I've seen like pretty weird shit at like supermarkets and shit. Like I've started to see robots. Not kidding. Like Walmart fucking now has like a robot. It's like a cleanup robot that goes around and looks for like spills and shit. Not kidding. Serious.
I believe it.
And
I mean, you guys are far advanced on that. So
well, yeah, I knew that they would start advancing in robotics. Like, Walmart is starting to phase out, like workers, not like stockers and shit like that, but I mean like cashiers and maintenance people with robots. Like, I knew it was gonna fucking happen. Like, I've been writing about it for years, warning people, like literally saying, the robotic apocalypse is coming. We're all going to lose our jobs to robots. Like, and Amazon is another big one that's using a whole bunch of robots too. Amazon started using uh, robots for pallets and for like um, stacking trucks and stuff like that. And it's pretty crazy. Because now, if you work at one of these companies, and I don't recommend working for Amazon or Walmart, but if you do, you have to keep up with a robot, and you can't do that. Like, they expect you to be able to keep up with a robot to work with a robot. And there's cases now with Amazon over the past couple years where people are literally like dying at work from trying to keep up with a fucking robot. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, that's legitimate. Like, I've seen and read several different cases about that, where people are overworked and they just die, like, because you're stressed out, and then stress can kill you.
yeah, and I heard also they are, especially in the U.S., they are looking to like replace truck drivers with a robot.
Yep. Yeah, that's been going on for years, but it's starting to push out a little bit more now. But yeah, they're starting to use automatic trucks. There was an incident that happened sometime last year that kind of delayed it a little bit more, because literally there was a automatic truck that was driving on the wrong side of the road into traffic. So back to the drawing board.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, see, that's that's like the crazy like possibilities of automated technology. It could fucking take you and drive you on the wrong damn side of the road. But in regards to the automatic truck that was driving on the wrong side of the road, that automatic truck was a tractor trailer, and it had a big trailer on the back of it, and it had no driver in it. So, the only people that were in danger were the cars on the road.
Yeah,
But just imagine that, like, driving down the street, all of a sudden you see a fucking like tractor trailer just driving into you. Like, what would your reaction be? Like, what could you do? You couldn't do much.
no, it's like a ghost truck. There's no one behind the wheel. It's like,
Yeah, it's scary, and it's a real problem. Like, it's like there was also a case with the Tesla trucks, or not trucks, cars, where it drove on the wrong side of the road. So the thing is like, this possibility of driving on the wrong side of the road is definitely there. The only way to avoid that would be to get rid of human drivers and then have all the cars communicate with each other. And that's where I see us going, actually, to be honest.
Yeah. The alternative is to have like special lanes for robotics, I guess. But, yeah.
Well, even with like special lanes, if you have those special lanes, the automation could still drive into a wrong lane. Like
Yeah.
how would it differentiate that? Like I don't think I don't think we're that advanced with it for us to have something like that. In my opinion, at least, I don't think that we could build or engineer, I should say, cars that would be able to tell the difference of this is the lane you're supposed to stay in. This is the lane for regular cars. Like I don't think it could do that. I think that the cars would have to be able to communicate with each other, and then that brings us to the possibility of vulnerabilities of having somebody send wrong data from one car to another, and all of a sudden you could cause a fucking massive pileup. Like it's not gonna work, guys. Like it's not gonna work. It's like the technology. What could you do to prevent a hacker from hacking into a car's computer and directing it? Like there's already videos out there of where people can hack a car and accelerate it and decelerate it and pull the brakes, all types of shit. If the car is newer and it has a computer chip in it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And if it's all, I don't know if it's all pre-programmed or if these robots follow like a GPS thing. People have in their cars too. But what you notice with GPS things in your car is if there is maintenance somewhere, this thing freaks out. For example, like unless it's constantly updated. But if there's maintenance, it doesn't find the correct route anymore. So to destabilize this stuff, you would pretty much have to like just close down a road and you would stop all the traffic because they're not human drivers and they won't know what route to take anymore, and you stop all the delivery of packages or whatever. So you stop everything.
Well, I think in regards to that, I think that it would be using a GPS, but even if it is using a GPS, right? A road's blocked off, and then all of a sudden, the system says turn down this road, and then you're driving on the wrong side of. Well, you're not driving, but the automated vehicle is driving on the wrong side of the road. Like we don't have the capability to know what roads are the proper direction to travel on, because some of the roads are one ways, and like I could see how very easily a automated vehicle could drive down a one way street thinking that, oh, this is a street that I can turn down. Like it's just a problem. It's a problem. There's too much. There's too many laws on the road and too many different types of roadways to do something like that without having the cars all communicate with each other. Like I said, which we would have to just eliminate human drivers, which that's where I see things going, in my opinion. But
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and especially about the whole vulnerability thing. I mean, like anything that's like electronic can be hacked. So you're you're making your society very susceptible to cyber attacks, far more than it is now.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we should announce tomorrow's show and wrap this up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we have tomorrow. We have the regular Anonymous Bites Back Asia shows at 11 a.m. GMT. Yeah, 11 a.m. GMT. we will have Japanese guests. This is very interesting. Maybe you should come too, AK, because we have people from Fukushima, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I'll try to make it, man. Like it's I don't know what time that's going to.
Uh, yeah, and I'm not going to give your geolocation. I'll let you know. Um, we will have so people from Fukushima and Australian guests. They will probably talk about the fires, and we have anonymous Nepal too, and they will be there too. So Amber says they're actually going to be part of the Asia panel from now on. So this will be like their first appearance, but they plan to be like returning every week. So we will have like the Asia panel will have our own Fukushima team on it with two specialists from the area. And on Tuesday we will have a guest from Wuhan. We have a show too, and we still have to announce the time, but it's actually a person who's actually from Wuhan and who is dealing with this fire situation. So I have to say I'm very impressed with Amber being able to get all these people. She's really working hard behind the scenes on this, and I'm very happy we have these guests who can actually give us reliable information, or at least first-hand information, like how they are experiencing it, instead of just getting our info from media sources. So yeah, that's tomorrow. It's Anonymous Bites Back Asia, 11 a.m. GMT. That's the time. Okay, do you have anything else to say, AK?
Actually, I just saw there's a breaking story from Spiro. 10K military personnel were in Wuhan. Hold on, I'm trying to get back to it. 1 second.
Okay, we'll wait for that. In the meantime, like we said before, please help. If you like the information we're giving, please help share it around. That's what we depend on. Like, we don't have any advertising budgets, and we're dealing with constant shadow bans and other forms of censorship. So help us to share this around. If you care, at least. I mean, I would have to.
All right, so I'm trying to scroll back up, and Twitter's being a fucking frozen. What the fuck? All right, so just before the outbreak, there was 10K military personnel sent to Wuhan.
That's a huge number.
Okay. Yeah, that's a massive number.
Does it say why they were sent or something, or just that there were people sent, and it was shortly before the outbreak?
It said, oh, fuck, okay. Alright, well, there's more. Nearly 10K military personnel from 110 nations in Wuhan, China, weeks before coronavirus outbreak.
From 110
This is
nations.
110 nations in Wuhan, China, weeks before coronavirus outbreak. You know, that says to me that they know China fucked up here. This is a bioweapon, and they were discussing what to fucking do. That's what I think. That's my opinion on it, at least. I haven't watched Spiro's video yet.
Yeah, without sounding like I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist or whatever, but to speculate in the wild. But if military personnel from 110 countries is there before an outbreak, it could be that they actually have been instructed on the protocols before it was released.
Yeah, there's that, or there's also information that the Chinese military or navy was was extracted from Wuhan before the outbreak was announced. So this is before the coronavirus outbreak. 10K military personnel from 110 nations in Wuhan, China, or I'm sorry, 110 nations were in Wuhan, China, weeks before the coronavirus outbreak. So let's say the virus happened in December, or well, we know it happened in December. Let's say the virus happened in November, right? Um, I'm not sure when these military personnel were there, but it would make sense if there was an outbreak that happened, and then they had a meeting about it to discuss what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I think it's I think it's very weird that 110 nations were involved there. Like that's a bomb.
yeah. Yeah. So that's very disturbing if you think about it. So either it was planned, but that is like this is very much speculation. That it was planned and they were instructed before on protocols, or it was just already released. Just we didn't know about it publicly yet, and they knew they fucked up, and they got all the militaries together, 110 nations, to actually.
Yeah, it's a massive. I haven't watched the video yet or anything, so I don't know any of the details of what Spiro is talking about. But Spiro's videos are usually dead on accurate. He does a lot of research, and he's one of my friends in alternative media. He used to work for Newsbud before leaving Newsbud, and now he works at Activist Post. So
Okay, well, we'll read more about that, and I hope you'll be in the episode tomorrow too, because I think these guys from that region, girls actually, it's mostly girls, they will be very interested in talking about this too, I think.
yeah, I'll try to make it, man. Depends on what time and everything. But yeah, I think it's about time we can close this off
Yeah,
and
we'll
get
close
on
it.
with our-
Sorry, I got you off.
No, I was just saying close it off and get on with our day.
Yeah, we did almost 2 hours, and it was a good show. If you missed the whole discussion with our guest, it was the first hour. He had to leave early, but he will return soon again for a new episode. And because we were only able to cover two main subjects during this time, the coronavirus and Julian Assange. If you missed it, listen back. We'll close this one, and then you can actually click on the back button, and you can listen to the entire thing again. Thanks everyone for listening, and please remember to share. Have a good evening.